Your Honor, I did confirm that he was down.
Oh, yeah.
For 3.
Why?
I don't know why, but he was mistaken. I've talked with the bailiff and he confirmed.
What are you doing there? You might as well have been on Mars.
The hearing started with frustration. The judge was clearly irritated because the defendant had shown up in the wrong courtroom. And honestly, the judge wasn't having it. Bad start. Very bad start.
Well, what are you doing in misdemeanor? This is a more important, serious matter. And your bond got revoked because you weren't here. But everybody is responsible to knowing where the most important thing in their life is meeting, and that's where a felony offense. That's a very important thing. If you're sitting in misdemeanor court, that's not my fault.
The judge reminded him this wasn't some minor mistake. This was a felony case, and not just any felony, a case that could literally end with life in prison. At this point, the tension inside that courtroom skyrocketed.
That's your fault. I'm sorry. You have to know better. Right?
Yes, sir.
I don't care. You should have been here. I mean, and you're on bond, right?
Yes.
You have a bondsman? Yeah. Well, they told you where to go.
Yes, sir.
They direct you, pay them. You have a lawyer, he knows where it is. He was here all morning. So
Yes, sir.
sorry. Sit over there.
Yes, sir. Well, I have.
Sit over there.
There's grass.
We'll deal with it at the end of all of this.
Okay,
Mr. Clark, come on out.
Forced involved with being a really Harold.
Okay. There was a bond forfeiture this morning. You were in another court, so I'm going to recall the bond forfeiture. The current bond, though, is $10,000, I believe.
That's just tricky,
which is woefully inadequate.
And then the judge dropped the first bombshell. The original bond, only $10,000. But according to the judge, that amount wasn't even close to enough. Would you trust this defendant back on the streets?
For a person who is charged with a felony DWI in paragraphs 1 and 2, then we have a conviction in 1997 in the indictment out of the 4th Judicial District Court of Wichita Parish, Louisiana. After that was final, according to paragraph 1, 2, 3, and 4, and again, the defendant, Nathaniel Clark, that's you, and you're here with Mr. West, your attorney and the state's attorney. But I'm reading through this indictment that was handed up in November of last year, a few months ago, by the grand jury. After that 97 felony conviction was final, it is alleged in paragraph 4 of the indictment that you committed the offense of aggravated battery, and you were finally convicted of that on May 4th, 1999, out of Wichita Parish, Louisiana. So, paragraphs 1 and 2 constitute a third-degree felony. Paragraph 1, committing the offense of operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated.
Then the criminal history started coming out. One DWI conviction, then another, and then another. And honestly, you could almost feel the courtroom realizing this wasn't just a mistake anymore. When does repeated behavior stop becoming a mistake?
But paragraphs 2 go on to allege that in 2012 and 2015, you were convicted out of Wichita Parish, Louisiana, of driving while intoxicated, operating motor vehicles while intoxicated. Those two priors and this new case together are a felony in the state of Texas because of 2 prior DWI convictions. And this constitutes a third-degree felony, which carries with it up to 10 years in prison if convicted. But paragraphs 3 and 4 alleging the convictions in 1997 and 1999 are in sequence. This makes this a habitual felon status.
And then, the words nobody wanted to hear. Habitual felon. That single phrase changed the entire case. This was the moment the hearing became terrifying.
Which means if convicted of this, you were facing a minimum of 25 years in prison to life. A minimum 25 to life.
Thinks he might come up today.
25 years, minimum, to life in prison. And honestly, the courtroom went dead silent. Could a DWI really lead to life behind bars?
The bond of, what was it, $10,000?
Yes, sir.
Woefully inadequate on a habitual felon status. Your bond is increased to $100,000 because of the serious nature of these allegations. If you post a bond, you must have a GPS device and you must remain in home confinement, and you can only leave your home for purposes of going to your doctor, going to your lawyer, going to get food, and those are to and from the most direct routes possible.
Applicable law in this case: Texas Habitual Offender Law, Texas Penal Code Section 12.42, Habitual Felony Offenders. If it is shown on the trial of a felony offense that the defendant has previously been finally convicted of 2 felony offenses, the defendant shall be punished by imprisonment for life or for any term of not more than 99 years or less than 25 years. Explanation: if someone repeatedly commits felony crimes, prosecutors can seek enhanced punishment, even life imprisonment. Real-life example: a defendant with multiple prior felony convictions who commits another felony DWI can face habitual offender sentencing enhancements. Legal interpretation may vary by state.
Your Honor, he also has a job. He works, as you say, from the uniform. He works for the city of Felon. So he does.
Yeah, and going to and from your job in the most direct route possible. But still, you're going to have to post $100,000 bond.
Your Honor, we would request the lower amount. He's been to court every time. This is happened multiple times to be here. He's, like I said, he has a good job with the city of Beaumont. He has some sort of, I understand the issue about the alcohol. If we can put some kind of alcohol monitor or something like that on him, but I think the bond in the lower amount so he can continue to work, continue to do what he needs to do to take care of himself.
Anything
His
to
family.
say?
Judge, I think the bond that first off, the bond is inadequate. I agree at its current amount. I think the bond that you've raised it to is proper. It's in commensurate with what you've done with other people similarly situated. We agree with the conditions you said. I don't suggest anything lower. I did look on the system here, and I do see that at the time on which specifically he did have a lawyer representing Mr. Burbank on a misdemeanor offense that arises from the same incident, Judge. So that does explain the...
Well, I'm kind of disappointed that the lawyer wasn't aware that there was a felony offense pending, and he might not have been. But and you were sitting in a misdemeanor court when you should have been in here, but that's not fatal. And those things can happen. But everyone knows a felony offense where you're looking at a minimum of 25 to life is far more important than a maximum of 1 year in the county jail.
Yes, sir.
1 year in the county jail is what you're looking at in a misdemeanor. Life imprisonment on this case. It doesn't take Einstein to figure out where the most serious matter is. But nonetheless, that's not a point here. That's not what the point is. The circumstances of this this underlying case with his rich criminal history, and then what was the blood alcohol?
157.
Yeah, 157. So that's twice the legal limit, right at twice the legal limit.
And then came the blood alcohol results, nearly double the legal limit. Now imagine this, a motorcycle, midnight traffic, and someone allegedly driving that intoxicated. Do repeat drunk drivers deserve harsher punishment?
And it's as though you completely forgot that driving a vehicle while intoxicated has its serious criminal consequences because you were convicted twice before of this. So you were on a motorcycle and crashed your motorcycle.
That's correct, Judge.
Correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So you're out at Cardinal and Finette, a major area, at 11, well, at midnight. At midnight, you were honest about it. 3 16-ounce buds is what you admitted to, which may or may not have reached that high level. And then they brought you to the hospital to get a blood draw. And while they were trying to draw the blood, you were fighting them. They had to put you hand restraints.
According to prosecutors, things got even worse at the hospital. They said he fought officers while they tried to draw blood under a court order. This hearing just kept getting worse for the defendant.
To allow the nurse to draw your blood. You kept resisting from the requirement. It was a search warrant, a court-ordered search warrant that you were objecting to, which is a crime in itself.
That's the misdemeanor he was dealing with, Judge.
And it says a check of his criminal history revealed he was on parole for a DWI fourth conviction. I don't even see that fourth one.
What we were able to obtain is the 2 that's in your indictment, but that's the information from the PC judge.
Okay.
Is that apparently he was on parole at the time of this offense, all of which are factors that the state urges that the bond stay at the amount you set this afternoon.
Okay. The facts show that this is another, there's not much we can really do to prevent him from jumping on a vehicle, a motorcycle, or a four-wheel vehicle intoxicated. He's making it a career of this.
And then the judge said something chilling. He's making it a career of this. At that point, you could tell the judge believed this wasn't going to stop. Do you think repeat offenders eventually stop or escalate?
But most importantly, it's your consistent pattern of refusing to follow the rules. And when we're talking about motor vehicles, when the people die every day in wrecks for recklessness or negligence in the operation of those vehicles. And that's why the laws are important. These are vehicles are 4,000-pound missiles.
And honestly, this may have been the most powerful moment of the hearing. The judge compared intoxicated vehicles to missiles. That line alone probably stayed with everyone in that courtroom.
Nothing more, which can do great tissue damage to people, much less kill them. And motorcycle as well, when it's handled irresponsibly, that is intoxicated and recklessly, it's a danger to you and others. But you have a consistent pattern of not being empathetic toward others. You got to share the roadway responsibly with other people, not recklessly and negligently and irresponsibly. We all have kind of a agreement that we've all reached when we get on the road that we will handle our vehicles responsibly, not only for ourselves, but the other people who rely on us for responsible use. And you don't seem to care about others, much less handling yourself responsibly. So that is the reason for the bond. It is raised for those valid reasons, and we'll put it on the trial docket. You want to try it? We'll try it. And you're looking at, once again, be mindful. no less than 25 years in prison to life in prison.
Your bond is increased to $100,000. And finally, the judge made his decision. The bond jumped from $10,000 to $100,000. And honestly, this case shows why repeat DWI offenses are treated so seriously in America, because eventually, judges stop seeing it as a mistake. They start seeing it as a public danger. One bad decision can ruin a life, but repeated dangerous decisions can ruin many lives. And that's exactly why courts take drunk driving so seriously. If you enjoy real courtroom breakdowns, true crime documentaries, and dramatic legal stories explained in simple language, make sure you subscribe. And tell me in the comments, was the judge right?